NTA International News.
Christians around the world celebrate Easter as Pope Francis prays for an end to horror and death in Syria. Federal government hails its whistleblower policy. Information Minister appreciates depth of support from Nigerians. North Korea missile launch fails day after military parade. So good to have you join us on the news on NTA International. I'm Ifeanyi Okafor, and here's wishing you a happy Easter. Today is Easter Sunday. The day marks the resurrection of Christ, which is the foundation of Christian faith. As Nigeria joins the rest of the Christian world to celebrate the day with service of God in various churches, Basi Taipang in this report takes a look at the significance of Easter.
The origin of Easter can be traced to the first 3 centuries, where it was celebrated with Jewish Passover on the evening of the full moon of equinox. Investigation shows that the emergence of Western Church brought contention, as the Church insisted the feast should be celebrated on the first Sunday after the full moon.
There are 2 basic things. Number 1 is, did Jesus die? And then 2, did he resurrect?
He rose from the dead, and that marks the real origin of Easter.
With all the contentions, it is on record that Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection occurred after he went to Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover.
That is the foundation of the Christian faith, and that is why Christians take this season very, very seriously.
The clergy said there are lots of lessons to be learned from Easter in building a virile nation.
The more we are convinced that we are right, the more we should have the courage and even the joy to accept it in the name of God. The meaning of life is not about primitive accumulation of wealth and selfishness and greed, but actually to live a life that brings honor and glory to God and touch the life of other people positively. As a matter of fact, if we learn much about this sacrificial love that Jesus made for humanity, our society will be a better place.
Because for us as Christians, we should come to understand that whatever happens to the nation, it will definitely happen to you.
Easter Sunday, they say, reminds Christians of their heavenly callings and open door relationship with God through Jesus in the new covenant. The feast of Easter rekindles the spirit of sacrificial love, tolerance, obedience, peace in building vibrant societies. In Abuja, Basi Taipang, NTA News.
Now, still on the Easter, tens of thousands of Christian faithful braved heavy security checks for a place in St. Peter's Square at the Vatican as Pope Francis led the solemn Easter Sunday Mass. Pope Francis, who led the Easter celebrations in front of pilgrims, prayed for an end to sorrow and death in Syria. Justin Bemuyi monitored the celebrations at the Vatican.
On Christianity's most joyful day, Pope Francis lamented the horrors generated by war and hatred, delivering an Easter Sunday message that also decried the latest vile attack on civilians in Syria.
Per risorgere con lui alla vita nuova.
After a short bout of heavy rain, the pontiff gave his traditional Ubi et Obi blessing to the city and the world, in which he prayed for those suffering from war, famine, and political unrest, highlighting Syria, but also Ukraine and conflict zones in Africa. He expressed hope that the sacrifice of Christ might sustain the efforts of all those actively engaged in bringing comfort and relief to the civil population in Syria, which has also been a victim to war that continues to sow horror and death. And he prayed for peace for the entire Middle East, beginning with the Holy Land, as well as in Iraq and Yemen. He also spoke out against the hostilities and famine in Africa, notably in South Sudan, Somalia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Traffico di persone,
In the complex and often dramatic situations of today's world, may the risen Lord guide the steps of all those who work for justice and peace.
He further urged world leaders to hear the message of peace as they contend with the complex and often dramatic situations of today's world, and to work to prevent the spread of conflicts and to put a halt to the arms trade. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
Now, for more on the Easter celebration across the world, let's join Adu Adamu also.
Christians across the world are celebrating Easter, commemorating the day followers believe Jesus Christ resurrected in Jerusalem over 2,000 years ago. In Egypt, Coptic Christians observe the Easter Mass under tight security as the ancient minority still reeling from the twin church bombings that claimed dozens of lives on Palm Sunday. Worshippers at the St. Mark's Cathedral, where Coptic Pope Theodorus II led the Mass, passed through series of metal detectors as policemen and soldiers stood guard in the church and on streets. And in Syria, which is a now war-torn zone where in normal times major processions and festivities are witnessed, Christians there at this time join their counterpart from other parts of the world, but with an air of caution. From Jerusalem comes the report that the governor's Holy Sepulchre Church, where Christians believe Jesus Christ was crucified, buried, and resurrected, was adored with worshippers. And in Kenya, worshippers celebrated with a mass at Our Lady of Consolation Church, Garissa. Across churches in the United States, while Easter Sunday was observed at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York, crowds strutted along Fifth Avenue for the annual Easter Parade, a tradition which began in 1880s. Ademo also.
Now I have in the studio the Chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria, North Central, Reverend Israel Akonji. It's a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you very much.
Now, very quickly, it's yet another Easter celebrations, and Nigeria is not left behind. Now, how important is Easter season in Christianity, and is it really special?
Yes, Easter is very special for Christianity. Easter marks the resurrection of Christ from death. Jesus was crucified on the Good Friday and buried, and on Sunday early morning he resurrected from death, and he appeared to his disciples. And that is the heart of the Christian message, that Christ came, lived, died, and resurrected. His resurrection is victory over death. And that is why we all are celebrating today that Christ has had victory over death. After his resurrection, he ascended to heaven and is at the right hand of the Father, and we hope he is coming back again. So Jesus is alive, and Easter reminds us of the fact that he is the risen, conquering Lord, and that is our joy. That is why we celebrate.
Now, precisely, are there lessons to be drawn from the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ as individuals and as a nation?
Definitely. There are a lot of lessons to be drawn there. And the first lesson there is the lesson of sacrifice. Jesus laid down his life for humanity in order that we will be reconciled to God. And on the cross, as Jesus was crucified, he even asked for forgiveness for those who were crucifying him. And that means that the main reason Jesus came to the world is that the world will receive forgiveness and be reconciled to God, no matter what their sin might be. And so Easter is a moment when we are to reflect upon our lives and seek forgiveness from God and be reconciled to him. But that's not all. It is to make us remember that as Christ sacrificed himself for us, we should be agents of carrying God's sacrificial love to humanity. What Jesus did on the cross was to express God's love for people that did not deserve it. And today we are reconciled to God through Jesus Christ, and we are supposed to be agents of God's reconciliation for others also to come to God, and to be people who will also be sacrificial to humanity,
Jesus laid down his life for us. We are to lay down our lives for other people too by being sacrificial. And this is to be experienced in our family lives.
Or a time for sober reflection?
Both are involved. There is celebration, but our celebration should also help us to examine our ways, whether we are actually living a reconciled life with God. And if we are, definitely it has to show in our relationship with humanity, because if you say you love God, we have not seen God, but we see men, that love for God must be expressed in the way we love humanity, and we are sacrificial towards human beings.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Reverend Israel Akonji, the Christian Association of Nigeria Chairman, North Central. And now, moving ahead, in the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has enjoined all Nigerians to keep faith in the determination and ability of his administration to change the Nigerian story for the good of all. The president stated this in his Easter message to commemorate the special season in the Christian faith. The report.
The president added that the commemoration of this special season in Christianity is always preceded by fasting, piety, humility, penance and prayers of intercession in the build-up to the death of Jesus Christ on Good Friday, an event which reunited man with his Creator. The message of Easter, he noted, is filled with themes of love, faith, sacrifice, dedication, commitment, fulfillment of prophecy, hope, expectation and victory, as espoused in the scriptures and the teachings and lifestyle of Jesus Christ. As Christians celebrate yet another Easter, President Buhari urges all Nigerians to live peacefully with one another and do their utmost to make the country a beautiful place. The president maintained that the administration has worked hard to meet the expectations of Nigerians by improving security, especially in the Northeast, sustaining the campaign against corruption, and have taken steps to revitalize the economy. He restated the federal government's determination as never before to continue with the fight against terrorism and insurgency, sustain the peace in the Niger Delta through engagements with stakeholders, and restore peace and stability in other parts of the country. President Buhari, in his message, also enjoins all Nigerians to keep faith in the determination and ability of this administration to change the Nigerian story for the good of all, as it wishes all Nigerians happy Easter celebrations.
Similarly, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has charged Christians to see the resurrection of Jesus Christ as an assurance of a better life in him, and urged them to exemplify the attributes of the Messiah in their daily lives. He said this in his Easter message tagged Revelations on the Resurrection of Jesus Christ. A full package of the VP's Easter message will be aired by 7:30 p.m. on the network service of the NTA. All NTA stations are advised to hook up.
The gospel is about Jesus replacing you. That is what resurrection is about. That Jesus Christ has replaced you, and he is the one. He is the one who God sees. Whenever you see righteousness, whenever you talk about righteousness, whenever you talk about it, look at when the scripture says, no weapon formed against you shall prosper.
All NTA stations are advised to hook up for this program. Now, in line with the anti-corruption crusade, the federal government has hailed its whistleblower policy, which has led to the recovery of looted funds in many currencies that may otherwise not have been discovered, describing it as an effective tool of fighting corruption in Nigeria. In a statement issued in Lagos, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, said the policy has also shown the depth of support among Nigerians for the fight against corruption through the useful lead they have been providing to appropriate government agencies, noting that it is now obvious that more funds are in the possession of looters than are available to government at all levels to meet its obligations. He said the recovered looted funds are safe, and that as soon as the necessary reconciliation process and litigation in some of the cases are concluded, the government will give a full account of the funds to Nigerians. Lai Mohammed reassured Nigerians who have useful information on looted funds that the government will protect their identities and also ensure that they get the stipulated reward for their efforts. Now to security matters next. The Nigeria police have a lot of success story to learn from their Chinese counterparts. This is the position of the Inspector General of Police Ibrahim Idris while playing host to the Chinese ambassador to Nigeria. Timothy Yusuf reports.
Common similarity between Nigeria and China is their high population. The Inspector General of Police says managing the security of Nigeria as the most populous country in Africa requires great expertise from China, which also has a high population of people.
You know, we've been having a lot of partnership with China. They've been supporting us in training. We've sent most of our officers to China to go and, build capacity in various aspects of policing. In most of the, peacekeeping missions in Africa, China is always a country that is eager to assist in maintaining world peace and harmony. And I believe, obviously, as the largest country in Africa, we're going to learn a lot from them.
The Chinese ambassador to Nigeria says they feel very much safe and secure in Nigeria. Hence, Chinese investors would continue to explore areas of partnership with Nigeria.
China-Nigeria strategic partnership is getting stronger and closer. And on the security field, we appreciate Nigeria, and particularly the police force, create enabling environment for the Chinese nationals here.
The visit was described as historic and beneficial by both the Inspector General of Police and the Chinese ambassador. In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
Now this is the news on NTA International, live from Abuja, the nation's capital. There will be more news after this time. Stay tuned. Great to have you back on the news on NTA International. Now moving to the housing sector. Do you know that there are over 15 million Nigerians in the diaspora seeking greener pasture? But most of them return to the country as tenants after their sojourn in spite of their contribution to the nation's economic development. And this report at Debola Brooksley Sunday takes a look at the present administration's efforts towards making them own a home in Nigeria.
Investigations show that many Nigerians overseas battle chilling winter, loneliness, cultural and economic challenges to make ends meet.
They work tirelessly to build houses back home, only to be canned by relatives.
I have personally sent money for people to buy me land or buy a building or invest in one thing or the other. And at the end of the day, when you come back home, you discover there's nothing left like that.
In 2016, President Muhammadu Buhari was in the United Kingdom, where he met with Nigerians and encouraged them to continue to invest in Nigeria.
That was a great help to the country, and I thank you for your sacrifice. If you can increase the contribution home.
In response to this call, the Office of the Vice President, Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, and other relevant agencies in the housing sector met to find a lasting solution to the painful experience of the diasporans, which in turn will encourage them to invest more at home.
If we have a stake in Nigeria, in the stake of the diaspora housing system, then you can be sure that the remittance is going to be much more than what we have now.
A total number of 15,680 houses will make up the pilot phase of the projects to be sited in Abuja, Lagos, Benin, and Port Harcourt this year at a cost of about 236 billion naira.
The project is designed to attract remittances from the people in diaspora, at the same time ensuring that those Nigerians that have left the shores of this country have something that will attract them back into the country.
This is part of our mandate in terms of the anti-corruption package. Rather than us investigating corruption in the housing process, we help to build institutions and the processes.
The Office of the Vice President is facilitating the arrangements, while the Federal Housing Authority builds the Diaspora City, and ICPC ensures no one is defrauded.
In 2016, about $35 billion was remitted to Nigeria by the diasporans. Adebola, Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
Now for highlights of stories making headlines in other parts of the world, an attempt by North Korea to launch a missile on Sunday near Simpo on its east coast is believed to have failed. The attempted missile launch comes a day after a military parade in its capital. In the meantime, President Erdogan of Turkey set to win after most votes counted in the country's referendum. Turkey, through the historic referendum, plans to switch from parliamentary to a presidential republic. The role of the Prime Minister also to be scrapped under the changes. Now time to take sports roundup, a recap of some major sports stories in the week gone past. Let's join Chukunonso Nwabweze for details.
Hello and a warm welcome to yet another edition of the program. Sports pundits believe that the wind of change that has been prevalent in the sports arena